And we now move to item 10, which is the proposed charges and amendments to the Auckland Film Protocol. Right, so these are mainly in the major impact area, is it? That the fees are going up.
What we're proposing through the chair is that, sorry, just to introduce Katie Flanagan from ATEED and Michael Brook from ATEED. What we're proposing is a review of the film fees, just so that we get them regionally consistent, and also some amendments to the film protocol. So it's just asking that we could go out for consultation on those fees. We've consulted with Parks, we've also consulted with Auckland Transport, and we've just aligned them into this table here that you see in front of you. It's going out for consultation. We've also had input from the industry on these.
Okay, well, I'm going to move the motion, the recommendation, as seconded by Councillor Quacks. Mr. Wilcox?
Question.
Yes.
The first question relates to the major impact, where it disturbs me a little bit that we're up there with Greenwich, Camden and places like that. Why is that? This is on page 20,
Why they're so high?
of attachment A.
Impact.
Yes, that's right.
Someone answer?
Not that I know much about the film industry in Greenwich region.
Oh. Because we actually have an amazing location. Sorry, I was just trying to understand the question. So there's concerns about why the impacts are higher in regards to Greenwich. It's sorry, I'm still trying to understand the question.
So-
Figure A4 under major impact.
Page 20.
Through you, Chair, I'll just give some...
No,
Just
just
can I just-
Figure A4.
What you mean.
why are we up to
So
that?
far up the
Why
scale.
are we up at those other
Very
for those
sought
other
after. Not a
locations?
question too.
Just because of the scale of shoots that are major impact, the type of shoots that come here, the international ones, comparatively with Greenwich, they're major international shoots. Those major international shoots do have a major impact on areas, and when they're shooting in the Greenwich area, those fees are high in Greenwich, and our fees here for major impacts are much higher for those larger impact shoots.
Yes. I suppose I'm asking that because I see we're even higher than Paris. I would have thought Paris was expensive whichever way you turn. So I'm just trying to work that out there. Is it for a specific purpose that we've put ourselves at that point in the market?
I suppose with the high impact fees, it all. Oh, Michael, you might be better to explain that.
In many ways, the processes that we need to go through in Auckland in terms of productions that do have a major impact, such as the road closure of a CBD street, are quite extensive. So they do take a lot more time than some of the other impacts. So that fee is reflective of the extra time that the team has to spend on it. But if your question is, so are you wondering if we've actually got it set too high?
I'm wondering, I mean, I would have thought that shutting down traffic in Paris would have been much more expensive than Auckland.
Whoa.
Anyhow, I'll go to the second part of my question, and it's to do with the protocols. One thing that disturbs me, because in West Auckland we have a lot of, it's a major industry, it's a major employer of whānau. So for you, Chair, I'd just like to ask the question, does ATED have these protocols that have been given to them by iwi? Because I know some iwi have given these protocols and then they've been approached and said we can't find it. And I can recall one, so I'm just wondering, you know, are we just keeping our little box in order?
Thanks for that question, and I do understand that example that you had about approaching the film facilitation team, and you had asked specifically whether or not they had the guidelines for filming in a specific area. That was an issue, and they didn't have that guideline. They now have it, so thank you to you for giving that to us. We have gone out to other iwi to get the guidelines, and we're also consulting on the fees with the Mānga Authority on a separate, I guess, running parallel to this project, because with the fees for mana whenua and with the Mānga Authority, that's going to be quite a big project, so that's why we're doing this separate.
My question is related to, really, are we keeping our team in order so that we have that, we're not losing these kind of things again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crum.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I too share Member Wilcox's concerns about what appears on paper to be a pretty high end up the scale reflection for our proposed charges under the major impact scale. Just two questions. One is, does major impact equate to major films? You know, if they're major films, we're potentially looking at some good revenue. That if they're looking at major impact filming, they're going to be major films that will be of great economic benefit to Auckland.
Yeah, you're completely correct. For us, when we were setting these fees, we always were, I guess, balancing out the consideration of how much cost recovery we should take on versus how we need to make sure that we are internationally comparative with other cities. So that whole balancing act, I guess, brought us to this point.
Yeah, no, like I can see the quandary here, because when I look and I see that screen production in general generates 700 million annual turnover, 6,000 jobs, but our current fees collected are only 150 grand, and we're only recovering 38% of our own costs. So it's pretty harrowing figures there in terms of our books. If we go to this new charges regime, including the one for major impact, what percentage figure do we estimate it'll be? We'll recover currently 38% of our costs would go to...
Through the chair, 50%.
To 50. Okay, and do we have any comparative figures for, say, Greater Wellington? As I note that we're a little bit ahead of them in terms of our new proposed charges as well. Are they about a 50% cost recovery rate?
Judging by the amount of staff they have and the amount of permits they are doing, I have to say I don't know exactly. So my assumption would be it would be around 50%. And I do agree with you. It does quite obviously that we're not doing a much fuller cost recovery. But again, it's that question for us of the fact that it's an economic benefit question for us, and the fact that we do have to remain internationally competitive. We are in a very intense international market, so
I fully support this, Mr Chairman. Look forward to submissions on the content and realise that we have to start somewhere and look at that greater economic benefit, which will be of great importance to this council. Thanks for your work.
Sorry, so councillor Quacks, did you have a question or?
Just in the glossary here, I wonder if it's necessary to cover other essential vehicles such as helicopters, which are quite often used in aerial shots, and even I think it's probably fair to say that drones will become even more popular for filming with the capabilities that they have now. So I wonder if that might be, I don't know whether that may be appropriate to include that in those essential vehicles. And I suppose what protocol have been identified that are needed in terms of aerial shots, helicopters, drones and so forth. Have we made any special provision for that?
Yes, we have discussed helicopters and UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. At the moment, ATED's working with the other CCOs in Auckland Council in regards to guidelines for drones. It is becoming an increasingly used way of filming. Helicopters are being used less, drones are being used more, so it's something that definitely needs to be updated in the protocol, and we need to look further into that.
So is it necessary to include it in here, or is it something that you will keep a watching brief on and that may be included at a future point?
It's a watching brief. We're also waiting to see what happens with the CAA guidelines and legislation around drones.
Yeah. And in terms of helicopters, presumably permission would be needed from whatever authority, the New Zealand Aviation Authority, whatever it is, would be required in terms of helicopter filming?
Correct, they need CAA permission, and depending on whether or not they want to land on council property or private property, they need to
Should that be
come to us.
covered in? Should that be covered in here?
Yes, it's something that we do want to add into this.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I look forward to that being added into it.
Thank you.
Councillor Nye?
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, I just want to say that to me the most important thing is to remain competitive with our costing, because it's, to me, the important part of this is the job creation that we actually create here in Auckland for our young people by having film here, and so I'm concerned that we don't lose that. The other thing I was just going to ask, Michael, I mean, is there anything we need to do to fast track the approval of these films in Auckland? Are we still running into problems being held up anywhere, or we've got that pretty well ironed out now?
I think the protocol's done a really good job, and it's made it a lot easier and more streamlined to shoot in Auckland. I think we probably for the future, the big thing for us is making sure we're part of the discussions and processes around the Mānga Authority, and making sure that we are, I guess, part of the discussions with that, because that's probably one of the biggest changes for us in the last year.
Sure. Thank you.
Councillor Brewer?
Oh, just a question around and some clarification. I see 6 local boards have made comments. Amateur/community students should not be charged or should have reduced charges. That delineation with, who constitutes a filmmaker, is that reasonably clear in the current policy, or does that, in your view, need greater clarification?
It will need some greater clarification in there.
Yeah, as in what are some of the issues? Are there community groups that are slipping through, or not being charged, or students, or where are the grey areas? Just quickly.
Grey areas are around students and also organisations that have film film schools in them, also around community groups and charitable organisations. Sometimes it's difficult to understand whether or not it's filming for a charitable organisation at cost, or whether or not a charity is having to pay a production company full amount for whatever their commercial is. And we would expect that charities should be shot, their commercial should be shot at cost, and then we would not want to charge the production company for that.
Sorry,
Just on that, just for interest, like this would be deemed in many of our minds as a public space. Would those who set up the filming capacity that we've got now, albeit not for profit and public service, would that have had to have gone through a process, compliant with the policy and protocols? It better have.
Yes.
Good answer.
okay, Councillor Wayne Walker, have you got a question?
Sure, just have a question that goes to 3.10, going the extra mile, and that refers to sustainability. I know with Auckland Council now, in terms of our procurement, we've got requirements around sustainability. I just wonder to what extent we can encourage that further in respect of the film industry when they're doing their filming here.
Might be my mother.
That's a really good question. A lot of production companies, well-known ones, South Pacific Pictures, are already trying to put in place zero waste, sustainability within their shoots. We do have in our permit standard conditions around waste and sustainability. We do want to take that further and work with the screen industry.
I understand that, so I just wonder whether there's a possibility of incorporating something that goes to that in here. I would suggest it's the way the industry is moving, and you probably would pick up something along those lines from other cities as well.
Yes, we can definitely note that and look into that for the amendment in the film protocol.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Right, with that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Declare that carried. Thank you.
Thank you.